Making your Helium miner back in less than 1 month feels like a distant memory, and although I was confident that these market conditions would never return, it seems like I'm proven wrong once more. Helium miners are once again making thousands of dollars per month on a single well-placed device. This time, however, I'm not talking about the good old IoT miners. Nope, we are talking about Helium 5G mining. Now you're probably thinking, how the hell is it possible that if you buy a $2,000 device that you make it back in less than a month? Well, a part of the reason is the price. If you look at the price of the Helium token and we go back to, for example, here, we see that the Helium token was priced at 1.2 and right now we surged all the way up to $10. Looking at the price of the IoT token, which is now the token being created by the IoT devices that we used to run 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and so forth, and we see that the lowest price on the chart is probably here. And again, we have a nice run-up similar to the price run-up that we saw with HNT, which is about a 10x. Now, the one that really stands out, however, is the Helium Mobile token. As we can see, the price went all the way down to 0.0011, and then it shot up all the way to here. And basically, we're still at a very high price. I mean, if you bought it here and you're still holding, then you did a 30x. The next question, of course, is why the hell are these prices pumping? Part of the explanation, of course, the entire market is going up. And the other part of the explanation is that the category DePin, or decentralized infrastructure, is going up much higher than some of the other types of coins. So yes, that would explain why the Helium token went up 10x, but not why the Helium Mobile token went up 30x. The reason for that is this. Helium Mobile at the end of last year launched the Helium Mobile Unlimited plan for $20. Now looking at the date, December 5th, and then looking at the chart, we see here December 5th, and then we have this massive run-up. So it's very clear that people are speculating on the potential of the Helium Mobile 5G network. Now, why do I say speculating? Well, very simple. If you go to the Helium Explorer, and this is a public website that you can use, scroll down a little bit, and then you see the network usage of the entire Helium network, which is IoT and mobile combined. Then we see on average, daily, we get less than $2,500 per month. And if you look at the past 30 days, I don't see any surge or massive growth. So let's just say we keep this $2,500 to $2,800 per month and we extrapolate this to the rest of the year, then you can say that we are getting in about $1 million per year. Looking back to the Helium Mobile token, however, we see a market cap of 300 million. And if we then add the market cap of Helium, which is 1.2 billion, then you quickly realize that these investors are evaluating the entire Helium network at 1,500 times the annual revenue. So I think it's safe to say that the expectations are a bit high and maybe unrealistic. The question, of course, is should we care about this? And my answer is no, because we care about how much money we can make before this bubble bursts. So how do we get started? Now, setting up a Helium IoT device was easy peasy, and of course it still is. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check out my previous videos. Right now you can find IoT miners for pretty cheap. You can buy them secondhand, or you can buy a new one for about $200, and they still give you a nice annual return. Just don't expect to make your money back in a few months. As I said in the beginning of the video, the opportunity is now at 5G mining. Sadly, these miners are only available in the US, and the reason for this is very simple. The US is one of the only countries who has a free, accessible frequency that can be used for 4G and 5G. All the other countries are selling these frequency bands for millions and millions per year. Now, before you turn off the video, if you're not in the US, luckily you have the option, for example, to buy a miner and then just host it with somebody else in the US. One of the companies that used to offer a service like this is Helium Deploy, but looking at the website right now, I can't find any information about that. I can only find this one, which is find a 5G installer, which basically means that if you don't want to install it yourself and you have a location in the US, you can use this service to ask somebody to install it for you. And of course, these people have a lot of experience doing it, so you can be pretty sure it will be set up in the correct way. Luckily, we have my friends at Hotspot RF. I'll put a link in the description. And on their website, we see host matching. So if you click here, then click on Find Hosts. Now, very important, this is not a service. So with Helium Deploy, they offered a complete service. With Hotspot RF, they're just providing the tool. So the only thing that this tool does is give you a list of people that are interested in hosting the miners. This also means that you have to come up with an agreement with those people and you have to trust these people to do their job. So again, if you're not living in the US and you still want to be part of this hype, I just suggest that you do some Google research, and I'm pretty sure you will find 1 or 2 companies that offer a similar service. Now, the other way around, of course, is also possible. If you don't want to do the investment, but you have a good location, then you'll find services like these guys who will match you with a host. But in this case, they will be in between. They will take care of the contract and so forth, and they will be the middleman, of course, in return for a fee. Now, before you dive in and start buying miners, I do want to point out that there are 2 different kinds of miners. The first one is indoor and the second one is outdoor. When you look at the results, you will quickly see that it's not really worth buying an outdoor miner. Yes, the price is lower, but there's a reason for it. So if you want to jump into this investment, I strongly suggest that you take a look at the outdoor miners and you simply ignore the indoor ones. Now, when you compare Helium Mobile mining to IoT mining, the first thing you will notice is that the setup is different. With IoT mining, you had 1 device. With mobile mining, you see that you have 1 gateway. And perhaps nice to know, this gateway also mines IoT. So it's both mobile and IoT tokens that it will mine with this gateway. Sadly, buying the gateway is not enough. You also need a radio. At the time of recording this video, the most profitable combination is the Freedom Fi gateway combined with a Basel's Nova 430H. Now, because we're focusing on the outdoor setup and you have 2 devices, it is pretty easy to understand that the setup is a bit more complicated than setting up the IoT device. Another important difference is that if you want to use the outdoor frequency, you have to register your device with the US government. This means you have to make a bunch of pictures, fill in a form, and then wait a few days. The last difference is the price. As I said in the introduction of the video, you can buy an IoT miner for $200 to $300, and when we want to start mining mobile, we'll have to invest $2,000 or more. This brings us to the most exciting part of the video, and that is how much can you make with a Helium Mobile miner. As an example, I went to Miami Beach, and we can see that this guy is mining 64,000 mobile tokens per day. Now, what the hell does that mean? Well, to get a better understanding, you can go to Hotspot RF, click on Helium 5G, and then click on Calculate Helium 5G Profitability. In here, we fill in the amount of tokens, so in this case 64,000. The price of mobile is automatically filled in. Then you click Calculate, and then we see the returns on a daily basis, weekly basis, and monthly basis. If our investment is $2,000, that means that this person has a return on investment within 9 days. Now, if you're watching this video from the start, you're probably saying, how the hell is this possible? The network is making only $2,500 per day, so how can this guy be making $200? Because he's probably not the only one. And the reason is simple. As long as investors are interested in the token and they're willing to pay these prices for these tokens, they're buying it basically from the miners and they're giving the miners these prices. But why the hell is Helium giving so many tokens to these miners? Well, the idea, of course, is that if there's no coverage, you will have no users. So in this first phase, Helium is rewarding everybody who is giving coverage. We had the same situation with the IoT miners, and we know that at some point, the shift will happen and you will be getting less tokens for just providing coverage and you will be getting more tokens for the amount of data that you process. But right now, luckily, we have this window of opportunity and just providing coverage is enough. Now, going back to our Miami example, if you know that this is Miami Beach, you also know that this is the sea. So in this case, this person has a very nice setup. He's getting a lot of coverage points on the sea. There's nothing blocking him in his line of sight. And that is why he's getting this big blob of hexagons. Of course, we have to be fair. Providing coverage on the sea is probably not helping many people. And the Helium Foundation seems to agree because we now have a HIP proposal that has been approved, which is HIP 103. And this proposal states that some hexagons will be rewarded more and others will be rewarded less. So yes, for now, this guy is making a lot of money, but probably in a few months, this will go down significantly. So far, we have learned 3 very important things. 1, location is critical. 2, the price of the token is very important to calculate your returns. And 3, you have to keep in mind that the network will change. They're constantly doing adjustments. And for example, in this case, some adjustments might change your rewards significantly. Sadly, this is not the only thing you have to keep in mind. This number that we see in the Helium Explorer is also very important, which is the number of active hotspots. Every cycle, there is a specific amount of emissions. So this is the amount of tokens being distributed to all of these different hotspots on a daily basis. This also means that if this number stays the same and this number goes up, that on average, people will be getting less. A very simple example, if we have 1000 tokens per day and I'm the only hotspot in the network, that means that I'm getting 1000 tokens. If there are 10 hotspots the next day, that means that every hotspot on average will be getting 100 tokens. And if on the third day 1000 different miners are active, then of course everybody will only be getting 1 token. Now, don't worry too much about this because it is much more important to have a very good location. So even if a lot of hotspots join and you have a great location, you will still be making a good amount of the daily tokens. This brings us to the next critical part of the video, which is how to calculate your rewards. To do this, we go back to the Helium Mobile coverage planner, and this time we click on My Plans. On here, we can click on a button, Create New Plan. The first thing you have to do is fill in a name. This can be anything. Next, you fill in an address. If for some reason you don't have an address, but you know exactly where you are, then you fill in the latitude and the longitude. If you don't know these numbers, don't worry. Normally, if you fill in the address, the app will automatically fill in these degrees. Once we filled in our address, next we fill in an address. And as you can see, as soon as you fill in the address, it will calculate the longitude and the latitude. After that, we have to choose the antenna. And as I said before, the most popular combination right now is the one with the base cell Nova 430. Click. Then we have to fill in the height. The general rule of thumb is the higher you are able to place your radio, the better. You can imagine if you put the radio in the basement, you will have zero signal for anyone and you will be getting no rewards. If you put it on the first floor, you'll probably be lucky to cover some of your street. And if you're able to put it on the roof and you don't have any buildings blocking you, you will probably be getting a whole lot of rewards. So let's just say 20 feet. And then we have the elevation. The elevation, simply put, is the angle at which your radio is looking. So is it looking up, is it looking straight to the front, or is it looking down? By default, I suggest that you keep it at 0, and maybe in a second simulation you can start changing it. This brings us to the last value, which is azimuth. So this value is the wind direction that your radio is looking at. So as a recap, elevation means is your radio looking up, straight forward, or down? And then the azimuth degree is which direction is your radio looking at. And I strongly suggest that when you're checking out location, play with different degrees. Once you got everything filled in, you can click on the Submit Coverage Plan, and then you'll have to wait probably 10 to 30 minutes, depending on how many people are simulating at that time. Now, to save us some time, I already did a few simulations. I looked at this area. The reason why I looked at this area is because it has purple hexagons. What does that mean? Well, as you can see here, these are boosted locations. So boosted location can give you a 10x on rewards, 50x, up to 100x. Now, why do we have boosted locations? Well, probably because in this specific area, we have people using the Helium Mobile plan, and we want to make sure that we give them the best coverage. So if possible, keep an eye out for these purple locations. This was my first simulation. So clicking here, we see that in the past 24 hours on that location, we would be making 6,500 mobile tokens. Again, what does that mean? We go to the hotspot RF calculator, 6,500, we click on calculate, and we see that is $23 per day or $700 per month, which means that we will have a return on investment within 3 months. Now, and this is where it gets interesting. I did a second calculation using a different wind direction, in this case 180. And we see that by simply turning our radio, I'm making 10,000 mobile tokens per day. So what does that mean? Well, we change it to 10,000, calculate, and we see we have $36 a day, which gives us a return in less than 2 months. Now, one more thing I would like to touch on is that per gateway, you can connect up to 5 different radios. So let's just imagine that I did set up two radios, one looking in one direction and one looking in the other. So how do you calculate the rewards on that setup? Well, simply put, you take the 10,000 tokens and you add the 6,500 tokens, which gives us 16,500. Then you click calculate rewards. That means we have $60 per day or $1,008 per month. But you have to keep in mind that the investment is bigger, and that means that we will have a return on investment for this setup in 54 days. This brings us to the last part of this video, and that is it worth the investment? As you've seen in the previous examples, location and setup is everything. It's therefore better to share profits with someone who can give you a top location over keeping 100% of the profits on a shitty location. Now, other than that, you have to keep in mind this is a serious investment. We're talking about $2,000 minimum. So even if you have a good location, you still have to risk $2,000. Now, why do I say risk? Well, first of all, we don't control what the Helium Foundation is going to vote on. The protocol may change, so time is of the essence, and you don't know how long you will have these conditions. 2, you don't know how many new miners will join the network, so you don't know exactly how many people you will be sharing the rewards with in the future. And then lastly, the price of the Helium Mobile token is very important, because if that goes down by 50%, your rewards will also go down by 50%. So conclusion, my suggestion is that you play around with the simulator, do your research in advance, check your potential location, make sure you can install it quickly and you can set it up properly, and then run different simulations to get the most profitable setup. Once you're comfortable with it, you can decide to move forward, but again, keep in mind that there are a lot of variables that you don't control. Now, if you're excited and you're ready to jump in and you want to support the channel, then please use one of the links that I put in the description of my video and take a look at the different setups that they offer at Hotspot RF. And as always, if you got any questions, do not hesitate to post a comment and I will get back to you as soon as possible. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. And then I want to thank you for watching and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Thanks.